So hello to everybody once again. Thank you for logging on here this afternoon. It looks like a good group. Today's topical focus is set to be potluck. Pretty much anything, any question that you've identified that did not necessarily fit into a bucket that was covered earlier this week. Even though I know some of our discussions and sessions earlier this week sort of went off of the scheduled topic, which is 100% okay. But if something has come up throughout the week, you weren't able, this is perhaps your first one, which I don't think anybody in the group, other than maybe Killian, I think everybody's been on at least one other one this week. So if you've got a question that you didn't get answered throughout the rest of the week, you've identified a new challenge since you were last on one of these sessions, you've thought of something that you really would like to get some input or feedback on, that's the intention of today's session. I have some stuff that that has been coming across my screen the past couple of days, that one of which really does pertain to animal science, and I've made mention in other sessions, but one of which is also actually more up Carol's alley, and there's very good possibility she's already covered this with a lot of folks, so I'm not quite sure, but I do have some stuff to share with the group. But before we do that, is there anything that anybody specifically would like to put out there, a resource that you have found that you're really excited to share, or a specific problem that you're working through that you'd like some input from your colleagues on? I guess we'll go ahead and get started with that first. What all do you have?
Just a point of interest for everybody. The agednet.com is free through the month of April. I got a notice that for the next month, you can buy a 1-month deal for $40. I think it was 40. Our school is going to go ahead and buy it for the year, but a lot of people, if they're not careful, that AgEdNet free is going to run out at the end of April.
ICEV also has their service for free right now as well. I'm not sure when that runs out.
Okay, excellent, very good. Anyone else have any resources to share out? Any questions that Kelly? I'd like to sort of pose a question to this group. I understand Kelly was able to join this morning, and I know some of you were as well, but Kelly was bringing up some interesting points during our afternoon session yesterday afternoon, sort of on two fronts. Is there anybody else on the call today that is teaching an AP class right now, specifically AP Environmental Science?
Nope.
Okay. Well, so if you have a close teacher friend at the school with you there that is teaching an AP level course, Kelly is teaching an AP level environmental science class through all of this, and she's got my deepest sympathies. I don't know how you provide instruction to that depth and level, teaching the way all of you have to be teaching right now and instructing. So if you come across other AP teachers, and they give you some best practices and tips that they've identified that have worked well for them, maybe shoot Kelly an email directly, or you can email me or myself or Beth, and we can pass that information along. And we'll also try to bring this topic up again on sessions next week. The other interesting point that Kelly brought up in discussion yesterday and this morning is, what are you all doing? What are your district's policies, and what have you all been doing as far as holding students accountable for their own work in all of this remote and online instruction? How do you know that? I mean, I know we're all at different spots as far as student assessment. Some of you are not supposed to be giving assessments, simply enrichment and supplemental work. But for any of you that are actually giving assessments, how are you validating that the student that you intended to do that assessment is in fact the one completing it? Or perhaps maybe there is nobody on this call that's giving or supposed to be giving assessments that are truly graded and need to be the student's own original work.
I can share, just because at our department meeting this morning, this was a question that was brought up to our administration just about integrity of work.
Mhm.
And nobody really had a good answer for it. We are not required to give assessments at all. We can kind of choose how we are getting how we're giving our assignments. I will say one thing I've done that has been successful for me is just using Google Docs. And when the kids submit, they have to give me editing access. If not, I give them an incomplete and then they have to resubmit until I get that editing access. And if you don't know Google, if you can get the editing, you can see the revision history. So you can see if things were just like copy and pasted right in. And so it's not perfect, but it at least gives me a little bit of leeway. Most of us probably are doing things that kids can't just Google and get the answer sheet for too. And so because of that, I do cross-check the kids, especially knowing who their friends are in the course. I do pull them up side by side if I have questions. So those are a couple things that I'm doing, not completely secured, but helps a little.
I don't know how, can you hear me?
Yep.
I don't know how helpful it would be, but my aunt, she's not an ag teacher, but she does teach environmental AP science class, and she's currently providing instruction for those students. I would be more than willing to reach out and get her contact information and share that, knowing that she's not an ag teacher, but it's the same course and similar content, just to get some ideas if that would be helpful.
Sure, I would love it. Yeah, any contact. I'm on a Facebook, AP Facebook page that encompasses several thousand AP teachers from across the world, and we're all struggling with this.
Kelly, do you use Flipgrid?
No, we do not have access to that.
It's blocked for your students?
Yes,
That's a bummer,
yes.
because that could be a good tool to have them, even if they're just reading an answer to a essay prompt or something that you give them. It makes them have a little bit more accountability to its their work if they're having to do it in video, but that would have been my suggestion.
Yeah, I actually tried last week to put up, I put on my Google Classroom that at this time you will have a prompt, and then I had them open a doc and so that I could see the history and do the editing and so on. And I watched them, I had them share it with me right away, and I watched them as they did it, and it was timed. That worked out fairly well. AP has decided the College Board has decided with all of their AP classes this year that they are going to do an online 45-minute test, national exam, international, that is going to be, for AP Environmental, it's 2 free response questions, and it's pretty much open book, open notes, open everything. Now they do have, they keep doing these webinars where they're telling us that they do have, they're going to have all kinds of anti-plagiarism mechanisms in place for these kids when they log on to take this test. So it's just, I was just wondering if any of you, I mean, it doesn't have to be AP. It's just, as far as assessment, I mean, we decided in our faculty meeting to not do final exams because we can't guarantee the authenticity of them.
Kelly, do your students have Chromebooks?
Yep.
Do you know about the feature to lock Google Forms so they can't open any other window?
Yes, but that doesn't stop them from having their phone
Right.
in the app or, yeah,
Right.
that's the problem. Yeah. So just frustrating. I'd love to have other input. I think this is something that we as a educational community are going to have to work through, because I have a feeling that there's going to be a lot more of this going on in the future.
Some of my students, I know they did the work, because even in Google Docs, their spelling is horrible.
I agree. It's like they're texting.
Exactly.
Yeah, I could always tell when somebody helped a kid write a speech, because usually they're writing, the sentences were maybe 4 or 5 words long, and then all of a sudden they're using big words and long sentences. And I'm like, okay, where did you copy that from? Or did your mom write that for you? Or your girlfriend?
Very true.
Well, thank you to everybody that has provided Kelly some suggestions there. They're all great. I can say that Kelly has shared in yesterday's session that she has already thought of and utilized some of those, but I know she greatly appreciates the input from all of you.
John, this
Another-
morning,
Yeah,
there was a young man on this morning that gave me a link. I haven't had a chance to pull it off yet, but it should be in the chat from this morning's session.
okay.
That I think he said at Penn State Harrisburg, or what's the campus down there?
Hack.
Hack, yeah.
Yep.
They have a mechanism to take an online, they have a security like it's a program. And he gave me the link to that, but I haven't had a chance. And right now I can't even think of the name of it. It started with an E, I think. But there are some programs, I guess, out there. I would guess that your school district would probably have to purchase them. I don't know. But that's something that I think should be an ongoing discussion throughout this whole time.
Yeah, agreed. Absolutely. And an ongoing discussion and an ongoing investigation. I mean, I know I've got it jotted down here in my notes to follow up with, and I will continue to sort of cross collaborate with some other folks in the College of Education at Penn State, and see if we can get some best practices and answers to that question, because you're right, it is a very universally thought of and a universal need amongst educators of all different subjects and types. So absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Sure. So another question that Kelly had that I just wanted to pose to the group from yesterday is, has any of you signed up for the free online courses that Penn State Extension has put out there to support educators and anybody at this point that would like to participate? Katie has. Katie, would you like to, are you able to unmute and kind of share your experience with that? How have they been going? How have you been using them?
Yeah. So I think Kelly and I might have talked on Monday that I was looking to use some of them and I had some experience, but I actually went in and completed a couple of them this week. One of them was the biosecurity practices. It's a 2.5 hour one. I actually thought it was really a strong one for animal sciences. I'm having my ag issues team actually complete it because of their topic. And some of them come with a certificate at the end. Biosecurity was one of them. And again, it was 2 hours, so it was very doable. It's a module, and then there are questions after it, and they let you know if you get them right or not. And then there's a test you have to complete at the end. That one specifically, you had 3 tries. The other one I looked into was partial budgeting. I really liked it, but if the students don't have any background knowledge on budgeting, I felt that it would not be appropriate unless you did teach a little bit about budgeting or some personal finance prior. But that was also, again, a short one. That does not come with a certificate at the end, but that one does have a handout that the students could complete and then they could turn in. The third one that I looked at and worked through was a significantly more difficult. I think it was also a 2-3 hour one. It was the plant diseases and health. That one was really well done, a little bit less on the video side, a little bit more of observation and reading. It went through, talked a little bit about different plant health and diseases, how you can identify it, and then gave a bunch of examples and some case studies at the end, which was really neat. There was a test at the end that you did receive a certificate. If any of you are private pesticide applicators, you can get credit if you punch in your number. So that was kind of cool. And actually the other one, I think maybe it was the partial budgeting one, asked for my PPID number. So you could have received some credit there for that. So I didn't know that about those couple. But yeah, those are the 3 that I looked at. I am using the biosecurity one, like I said, and I'm going to use the plant health and disease one in my plant science class. So there are the couple I looked at and how they're set up.
Now, does the biosecurity one have any like embedded videos or anything like that? Because I was
Yeah.
told that I'm not allowed to just tell my kids as an assignment to go in and do that. It has to be a extra, like I can suggest it to them, but I can't make them do it because I'm not teaching it.
Oh, yes. So they do have professionals or industry experts teaching through a video module with questions then at the end, or in the plant disease one, you would read the case study and then have questions. So it is a mixture of videos as well as some reading, but the biosecurity one was pretty much all videos.
Now, this morning on our session, one of the people said that that Penn State Extension has a YouTube channel where you can access all of their videos. And most of the videos, I guess, on these extension courses have the videos on their YouTube channel. I guess if you Google YouTube,
Yeah.
I haven't done it yet. I haven't had a chance to do it yet, but they said that it was that you could do it that way. I mean, how do you guys feel about that? You know, you take the course. Could I extract some stuff out of there and like?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because even when I clicked into the videos, I saw the YouTube sign at the bottom and went in. And yeah, you can find all of them. The courses, how they're set up are nice because they are set up as a page by page. So you have the video and it has course objectives for that video. And then you answer the questions, you hit next page. It tracks your progress. It has a little resource handout tab. It has a progress tab for you. So it is nice in that sense that it's set up as a course, but yes, they all the videos are on YouTube somewhere.
I don't see how that's different than, because I know like we require our kids to do the OSHA certification. And
Yeah.
I don't understand, like when my principal told me that I couldn't do this, I don't understand the difference. Like we're allowed to do the OSHA, but we're not allowed to do this. Does anybody have any ideas on why?
Well, and my question to that, Kelly, is what's the difference between this and showing a video in your class and having them do a worksheet off of it?
Yeah.
I don't get it. I don't know if they're trying to justify our paychecks. I don't know.
That would be my guess. Probably people would say to their kids, okay, here's a list of videos, here's a list of questions, now go watch them and do that and not have any other interaction with kids. Maybe that's why. But I just did a search. I typed YouTube, extension, Penn State, and there's a whole list of like boatloads of videos, soil testing, dairy extension, all kinds of stuff.
Okay. I think I'm going to go back to my principal and just ask him again, like, why? I mean, if they're getting a certification out of it, especially, I mean, do you think that certification could we put that in our scope and sequence for SIP and all that?
I mean, the certificate, when it comes, it is signed by Dean Roush, and it is signed by the head of depart. Oops.
Hello?
Not quite sure what happened there.
Or when there.
Oh.
Sorry. Yeah, so, and it has the kid's name. And like I said, especially the biosecurity, Kelly, I think a good justification is, as an educator, you would receive PPID credit for it, or, you know, your Act 48 hours for it. So I would say it's credible.
Okay, well, I'm gonna push it with them and see.
Isn't the
I
deadline
mean,
to sign up for those the end of April? Is that correct?
Yeah, April 30th.
And Kelly yesterday did ask me, and I did want to mention that I have proceeded on with this. If I could check with Penn State Extension folks, which I did, except I'm becoming very frustrated with the person I keep contacting over there. I'm going to start trying somebody else. I did ask if they would be willing to extend that window of availability for those resources past April 30th. Again, I have not heard back yet, but maybe I might go to the top, straight to the top this time, and just see if that's a possibility.
You go, John, you go.
I do go. But yeah, so that is something we're pursuing. And I'm also going to keep pressing. I know that extension is really kicking into high gear in a lot of different departments amongst this whole COVID-19 situation. We get a daily update email from Brent Hales, the new dean and director of extension. They really want to be the go-to source for all kinds of different needs through this situation, both from an educational standpoint all the way down to a homeowner food security standpoint. So I really think that if we would give them enough parameters as to what exactly they could do that would help ag educators in the classroom in the same positions as you folks, I really think they would go out of their way to try to come up with some things and maybe create some things, some of which I'm going to share with you in a second here. But I want to make sure that all of your specific questions are gotten to first. So yes, we will continue to try to utilize Penn State Extension to help you folks through this. Absolutely. So with that said, is there any other specific challenges, questions, resources, just stories that anybody would like to put out there and for discussion before we move on?
I really want to know who's having lunch right now.
I believe that's Katie.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize I was unmuted still. Oh, yikes. Well, hey, that's a great segue into one of the reasons I'm here, which is because I teach food science. So I was curious if anyone else is teaching food science and if you have found any resources. I have found food science to be one of my easier courses to put together because of the access to home kitchens, but I'd love to hear any creative ideas that anyone has.
I saw something about somebody giving like a choice board of things to do in the kitchen. I forget where I saw it.
Awesome. I'll look that up probably in like an ag ed discussion or go back through my emails.
I think it was on the Facebook ag group, the ag
Okay.
ed group on Facebook. I think it might have been on there.
Gotcha.
But some kind of choice board where they have to, do like measuring, or maybe they could videotape themselves, actually doing it and then submit that or something, or pictures or something.
Awesome. Thank you.
I think given the circumstances, Now, of course, I don't know that you could mandate this by any means, but I know that quite a few, home food preservation methods are being sort of brought into action, and victory gardening is becoming a huge thing again. And additionally, the home canning, and therefore, if it's not necessarily that we're in a true food insecurity mode right here, but I think it would be cool to sort of have as like I don't even know if you're allowed to give extra credit during all of this or anything, but some sort of enrichment activity of document your very first home canning journey. If a student and their family is looking to do that, or just because of the relevancy right now, direct them to some canning resources and instructional videos and whatnot. And I just made a note for myself to sort of tap extension and see what kind of digital handouts and resources they have on home food preservation that you guys could utilize for an activity on that.
Oh, speaking
Yeah,
of which,
that's
I
a
wonder
great
if you-
idea.
It is. I wonder if you can use an Instant Pot as a canning container.
No, Carol say no.
No.
No, I've done some research on that because I just started to can a couple years ago, and I think it doesn't get to high enough pressure or for long. I don't know. You can look it up. That would be a good thing for your kids to do some research on. And I can tell you that Extension has a lot of information out there about canning and proper canning procedures. And it would be interesting to have them look up tomatoes, because the tomatoes of today don't have enough acid in them. So if you hot water bath can them, you have to add acid to them, or botulism can be a concern.
So, I don't know how educational it is, or if you can give extra credit, but one of my teammates, Mikey, is doing like snacks in the kitchen on Saturdays with Mikey's, every other Saturday. And he's just posting videos to our social media. So if you could, like, I don't know, pull the link and like put it in however you're communicating with students. It'd be something like not necessarily most academic focused, but
That would even be just good to have as an example too, Killian. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Killian, are you able to share the link to that Facebook page in the chat?
yeah, I could pull the link. I'm actually walking out of work right now, but I can pull the link for that. It's just the Pennsylvania FFA's Facebook page.
Okay.
And all of the videos are saved there, but I'd be more than willing to definitely share out links once I get home.
No problem. PAFFA's Facebook page in the videos. Very good. Okay, that help you out, Katie? Give you some ideas? And
Awesome. Thanks.
We'll try to do our best to pull some hard resources that you can maybe, hopefully turnkey use and shoot out to your students to save you some time. Okay, great questions, great conversation. Anybody have anything else they'd like to pose to the group? Reading food labels, I think creating a meal and a food budget for the household, and in these conservation type times, that's another great, very relevant, very simple, easy lift activity for you as a teacher. Just kind of steer them to some guidance materials on developing a food budget for the household, and how to not be wasteful and be a little bit more frugal than normal. Absolutely.
As we talk more about careers, I used to have kids do a budget for them for like a week and a month for just themselves, and then a family, like them and a spouse or whatever, and then a family of 4. And it really opened their eyes as to, how much money they were going to have to make to live whatever kind of lifestyle they thought they wanted. and then what kind of job they needed and what kind of skills they had to get in order to be able to afford that lifestyle.
Yeah, there's a website, or I think it's a website that does a self-assessment. I think I mentioned that in the SAE, the foundational SAE meeting that you had. It's really good. It has them go through how they want to live. And then after they, answer all the questions, then it tells them how much money, like, where do they want to live? Do they want to live in a city, or do they want to live by themselves in the country? Or do they, it's kind of general, but it gives them a ballpark figure to look at. And then they can actually search jobs that they're interested in. And it tells you, am I going to make enough money? And it even has it broken down by state as far as the average income for that particular career. And they can see, am I going to make enough money to live like I want to live?
I just talked to my home ec teacher, family and consumer science, whatever you want to call it nowadays. And I asked her about what she's doing, and she said she's reviewing meal prep guidelines and nutrition with her kids, and then asking them to share what they've been making at home. Trying to
Awesome.
get a feel of what they're doing, but the nutrition guidelines I thought was pretty cute.
Yeah, that's neat. Thanks, Marty.
So down here in go ahead.
Sorry, I just had a question for Katie. Are you CASE certified for the animal science?
Nope. I've got AFNR in plant and ag business. I student taught with food and animal though, so I have an idea of it.
Okay, there's a lesson in the nutrition section that has them, it's how to read a food label and how to compare it to a feed label.
Oh, that's neat. I could probably find something along those lines to do. That's really cool. Thank you.
Yeah, it compares like people's sweet corn to like field corn that we feed to animals. Like it has them compare the labels and how like the calories are different and so on.
Okay, that is neat. I saw National Ag in the Classroom had the plant-based burger lesson. I know it's been out for a while now, but maybe that's even something that you could look at with the pet food. I think that's the label they look at, pet food versus the plant-based versus non-plant-based meat. So yeah, that's awesome. Thank you.
Do you do meat cuts?
No, we don't do a lot of processing because of our facilities.
But could you do identification of retail cuts?
Yeah. I
that
will
would be-
put that up. I'm running out of weeks to teach, but no, that's awesome.
There's a website, it's a game. It's wholesale, where do the retail cuts come from? On beef, pork, and lamb, I think. That the kids have to get on. It's like a game. They get on and they have to like match up like where the wholesale cuts are and so on.
Oh, very neat.
And I think it was the University of Kentucky for some reason. I'm thinking the University of Kentucky had that.
Okay, I'll jot that down next to that note. Thanks.
Yep.
So I did not find the one that that Kelly just spoke of, but I did find a game through Purdue Extension. Pin the cut on the whatever. There's a plan there, instructions, so on. Someone along the one Kelly spoke of sounds a lot cooler, but there's a simple one. I don't know how you would turn this into virtual. You just better hope that your student has a sibling they could play this with or something at home. But I've posted that link into the chat as well.
Thanks, John.
Yep. Janae, you mentioned that you had a question. on something. There you go.
Just a real quick question as I've been planning my upcoming week. So we are, just a little background, grading pass fail for fourth marking period. We teach live 2 days a week, and then they're independently working the 3 days a week. We were recommended 45 to 60 minutes of work per class a day. However, I'm curious, just after watching my students work through week 1, and I think this came up in the morning because I had talked to Megan Sleep about it a little bit. How long do you think your students' capacity is right now? Are they screened out? Are they still adjusting to learning again in this environment? And how long, approximately a day, are you expected to give them work? And yeah, those are just some probing questions to start things out.
We're required to give 20 to 30 minutes every day. We're supposed to be on with them twice a week, but they're discouraging video. So this morning I did it's called a Google Meet. And I can show them my screen and talk to them, and they can talk back, and that worked pretty well. And we are pass fail also. I talked to one student this morning who had been emailing me every time she turned an assignment in. We're in week 3. We just completed week 3 today of this online teaching. And I asked her, I said, are you overwhelmed? What's going on? Because she kept emailing me and saying, this is going to be late. I'm sorry. I'm just so overwhelmed. So I asked her today if she's feeling better about it. And she said she was. I said, how many hours a day are you spending? Now she has 8 classes. She said she's spending 4 to 5 hours a day. And I said, well, that's about right, because we were told 30 minutes of work per day. And she said, okay, well, then that's good. So I think she's feeling better about it. I think at first they're overwhelmed. But I think now week 3, she's feeling better at least. So I'm hoping that the rest of the kids feel the same.
Okay, that's good to know. I think it will come, but I'm seeing a lot of overwhelm as well. And so there's always a line of purposeful work and then not purposeful work. So do I give them something they can get done in 15 minutes, but is going to benefit our live instruction a little bit better? Or do we give busy work for 45 minutes? Because that's what
Janae, it's funny you state it like that, because we actually had this conversation as a department. We're part of the science department. And so we have like core bio teachers and we have us as electives. And what we've kind of come to terms with as a department is our students are really stressed about their core classes, and then with electives, the kids are either looking at it as, okay, I'm not doing it, or it's a break from the core classes. So we're required 30 to 45 minutes of work per day. And what my students have appreciated, because a lot of their core courses are everyday little assignments they have to be doing. I do an end of the week survey, and I ask how much time, did they like the setup of the week? And with being in my 3rd week, on average, my kids spend 2 to 3 hours in my class for my classwork a week. I've been doing a project that I break it down that they can work at it day by day, but they have till Friday to turn it in. And the goal is to make it practical and to make it consumer-based knowledge. And I know some of you heard me share earlier in the week about what I did in plant science with having them find a how-to video and then completing that how-to and showing us that new skill they learned. And that's what they did for the week. And so practical and consumer knowledge. And the feedback I've gotten from the students is, I really like how different this class is. I really like I can work at my own pace, and I don't have to check in every single day. So that's some of the stuff I've heard on my survey feedback.
I'd like to add, from a student perspective, I haven't decided if this is a blessing or a curse yet. But I have a freshman who lives in the same household as me from Cumberland that goes to Cumberland Valley. And I've heard a lot of similar things in terms of work. It's either a lot, and this is sad to say, but her core classes, she feels like it's busy work because they're not providing new material. At least in 2 of her core classes, it's all reviewed that they've already done. They are also on a pass or fail system, and they're required to give them 30 minutes of work a day, and then they only have an hour of office hours every day. They pick an hour to set up a Zoom call and let students call in if they need help. But in terms of her ag class, she's gotten a lot of like projects or tasks, and she hates watching the videos. Some of her other teachers have given just videos and say, watch this video, respond to this prompt. And she's like, I'm getting nothing out of this. I'm learning nothing. I'm not getting any interaction. So that, I mean, it's not a teacher perspective, and I don't know if it's anything valuable, but at least it's a student perspective coming from the student. I haven't decided if I am enjoying hearing the feedback or not yet.
Yeah, that's good.
We actually did something as a faculty. We started this Google Sheet that we're sharing among all the faculty members with student names who are not completing like anything at all. And then whoever posts it is responsible for contacting that student, and first the student and then the parents. And guidance is involved in it as well. So if we have a student who's not working across the board, maybe they're doing, just not doing anything, then we're actually contacting them, and the work is spread out so that, I don't have to every teacher doesn't have to contact every kid that's not working in their class. And it's really worked out well. Our principal told us yesterday that he was talking to a neighboring school district, the principal in their district, and they're frustrated. They said that approximately 70% of their kids are doing nothing. Like they're not turning anything in, and we're definitely way above that. I think we have probably at least 95% participation in lessons.
Yeah, we have to communicate that differently in our building, but because we had 2 weeks of just enrichment that was not graded, we were able to use that as a way to rule out a little bit students who, like, we had communicated to them in advance if they weren't at least logging in to Schoology at that point in time. So we've really ruled out a lot of that. That's not, low turn-in rate is not my concern at this point. It's more so where's the time frame. And I keep coming back to Katie's comment about practical consumer knowledge. Teaching all mechanics for me right now throws some challenges in terms of what is my most important content to deliver for the rest of the year. And that might be my route I need to go to for some of our independent days. It might not directly correlate with my live classroom days. But when we look at purposeful, I don't know, I still got to think about that a little bit, but all those are helpful thoughts about what your schools are doing. But we can transition. Oh, go ahead.
I just had a really quick question. Does every student have access to digital learning? Because I know that was a concern of my teammates and I when we're reaching out to students and trying to connect with our members. Obviously, our means right now of reaching out with them is all digitally or all social media or all online. We weren't sure if we needed to investigate some other avenues, or do all of your students have access?
For our school in particular, we are one-to-one with the Chromebook, so all students have a device, and at this point we've determined that the majority of our students have internet access or have since been given internet access through some of the various programs that exist for educational use. So our district has kind of really narrowed our number down of students that don't have access anymore, so we're in a good position there, so we're grateful for that. I can't speak for other schools, but
Our local cable company actually is offering free internet for the kids that didn't have access before, if they can get cable. And we bought, I guess, I don't know what they're called, like jet packs, I guess, for some of our students. I think there were 26. We have a population of about 600 in our high school from 9 through 12. And we had 26 kids. They did a real quick inventory. We are also one-to-one Chromebooks, but they did a real quick survey before we left out on the 13th from the kids asking about their internet access. And from that, they had 26 kids that did not have access. And so they bought some jet packs, I guess, for some of those kids. But then the cable company came along and said that they would do free access. So
We've got a little over 10%, I guess, that either don't have internet access, don't have enough internet access, don't have a appliance to do it on, or just refuse to do it. So all those kids are taking packets home once a week.
Janae, and well, to anybody for that matter, but speaking mechanics wise, what are your thoughts on, and I think the uniformity and fairness is the biggest two issues that districts and teachers and everybody's facing right now with all kinds of things. But so this is obviously dependent on home life, but what about having them find a piece of power equipment at home, a weed trimmer, a lawnmower, something that they're about ready to pull out and utilize for the spring here, and either locate the hard copy owner's manual, user's manual, or research it, find it online, and maybe they could document them safely, of course, performing any kind of maintenance and recommended like spring tune-up activities to that piece of equipment to get it ready to use at their house.
I had that same thought, and so I polled all my students during our enrichment week to see, what do you have at home, what tools do you have, what piece of equipment do you have a car at your house, can we talk about changing oil and tire pressure, whatever. And I was split pretty 50-50. So I think I've kind of lend myself to, I may make a choice board of like home practicums, so things that are pertinent to class. And then they could sub out. So if they don't want to do our like independent task, they can go change the oil on their lawnmower or whatever. They can pick off the board and record in Flipgrid that they completed the practicum. And also if they're working right now, like I'm not going to discount the fact that some of these kids are working really hard, whether that's for family income or for their own income. And so if I can, and work experience is valuable no matter where you work, in my opinion, and we talk a lot about that in my classes. So if I can give them some incentive to do other classwork, because I can give them a grade for showing me a skill that pertains to our class that you're doing at your job, I'm going to do that. I just haven't quite figured out how to do that fairly, because if I don't have access to any of the things that are on that choice board, that means I automatically have to do the other assignment. And is that truly fair? That brings up another piece that I'm trying to, contemplate in my head. But I've had kids ask me, can I do this on my engine at home or whatever that I was going to bring into class and that kind of thing, which is great. Yes, 110% go do it. But I want to also give you some credit for that effort that you want to put forth. So
I'm not well versed in mechanics since we don't have that in our program, but I know with the food science world, I looked at like video options, Janae, and to my knowledge, like One TV and even YouTube or streaming services, there's like home build project shows, and I realize I'm butchering that title, but could they like watch a show and capture down the materials and the amounts and then look up the costs and look at how much would that make, or take that project and adapt it for your space type of thing. I don't know if that would be helpful idea.
No, that's a great idea. Actually, not everything on that choice board would have to be practical to a piece of equipment they have. That's very true. Like some of Carol's options over there as well.
So, excellent, fantastic discussion. What awesome way to round out the week here. Katie had mentioned it in the chat. It was in my plan to kind of prod the conversation along here today. Just really quickly, and of course, I'm fine to stay on here longer than the hour planned. But we've got Tiffany Mori, our PhD student, who wants to share something that I've been mentioning a couple times here. But just out of curiosity, we don't have to dwell on this, but if there is something really unique that sticks out that you'd like to quick share with the group, I'd appreciate it. Are you concerned with continuing on your FFA activities in any way, shape, or form? Is that even on anybody's radar at this point at the local chapter level? If so, what have you been doing to keep your FFA members engaged and feeling like they are part of an FFA? If we could spend just a couple minutes sharing examples of what you're doing in terms of FFA, that would be great. And if there are none, I understand. I just wanted to provide the opportunity for folks to share about that if you're doing something.
We had our first virtual meeting today, just my officers, and we have a chapter meeting for Monday afternoon. The kids were really adamant that they would like to try to hold out for an actual banquet in the summer, maybe like a picnic banquet. But we are going to start doing some senior spotlights on social media. And then I was actually contacted today by the school. They want us to do because we missed our tractor day, our Drive Your Tractor.
Thanks for sharing, Raylene. Killian, did you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted
School day.
to just remind everyone that please reach out to us and encourage your students to reach out to the state officers. Outside of going to work ourselves, we're sitting at home twiddling our thumbs and trying to get something good together for a possible virtual convention. We're really starting to investigate that. But you know, we were elected to serve for 1 year, and whether we do that in person or online, that's something that we're still super passionate about. So please utilize us if we can. If there's something that we can provide, whether that's an online video, whether that's joining into a chapter meeting, reach out. We would be more than willing to help in any way that we can. Also, quick question, what platform did you use to meet with your chapter officers?
We used Zoom today. Our school actually told us we weren't allowed to use Google Meets anymore. Something with the security, but then you see other companies aren't letting you use Zoom. But we used Zoom this morning.
That's what I was wondering, because we were told by a couple of teachers that they're not allowed to use Zoom. So I was like, well, should we be using Google Meets? But hearing that, no, I don't know what to use.
Oh, Google Meet, you can use just the audio portion. You don't have to use the video.
Our district said go ahead and use either one because you're going to hear things about both of them. Just make sure you're being smart about it and you set up protocols. So that's what our school does. Our officers choose Google Meet to meet together, and our virtual chapter meetings have been through Zoom.
I'm curious in terms of what you're doing for holding your officers accountable, for lack of a better term, for work that they can do right now. I'm like putting together a list of things that could be a 10 to 15 minute weekly task that pertains to each position, so that they're still investing time into the organization. I think for us, they just are at a loss in terms of our banquet was to be March 18th. We closed the week before. So it was like, we're running full speed ahead into banquet season and that getting ready for that event. and then very abruptly left the building. And so I think they were just kind of like completely shut down. And so now we need some things to get them back into gear. And I think if they're small little tasks, then we'll be motivated to pick up at a chapter meeting level and things like that. But have any of you given specific tasks like that to specific officer roles? So, okay, secretary, you're going to get something posted online, or reporter, you're working on an article. I don't know. Thoughts on that?
Our reporter's actually working on a online scrapbook, kind of like a slideshow type deal, that we're going to be able to use if, like Raylene said, we're hoping to be able to do a summer banquet, maybe. Something that they can use. So they're gathering photographs from everyone.
Well, like I said, we're doing a senior spotlight. So that's one of the students' jobs, is to create the senior, the little thing that's going to be posted on Instagram and our FFA Facebook page. And then my reporter's working on the actual scrapbook. So I'm actually going to email the pictures to Walmart and have them mailed to her house.
Janae, one challenge our office or team has faced with doing something like that is the different responsibilities of our students. We have some kids working all day, some kids babysitting, just different tasks and responsibilities. And so the question our team brought up is, you know, are we willing to pick up, lack of a word, each other's slack, or because we're doing things elsewhere? Our kids also didn't want something like that right away. We threw that idea around because they wanted to adjust to online learning and get a feel for what that schedule is. And ending week 3, we actually have a meeting here tonight at 5. Tonight I told them we need to come up with a plan moving forward now that they had an adjustment period. They know what their schedules are going to look like. We have clarity on that. Our end of the year is set in date, but I know those are some of the concerns that they addressed with us originally.
Yeah, I don't want to add to the mix, especially when they can't be together. But this isn't also, like, we can't afford as an organization, we look at maintaining relevancy in our community and our building, to just take this as a break. And that's hard not to do when we had come running full speed ahead, like I was saying, into our banquet. So like right now would be our slow time of year other than CDEs. And so that's great, but we still need to celebrate members that would have gotten recognized at the banquet whenever that might get rescheduled for. We have a new team to transition in. And so, yeah, I don't want to overdo it. I want it to be something that can be quick. 10, 15 minutes, like I said, a week, but they're still engaged in their role. But
if you come up with that list, I would love to see it.
Sure. Probably won't have a 2x5 today, but for your team.
That's all right.
Scrapbook is a great idea. Ours, unfortunately, was done up to our banquet, and now we have not had any events since our banquet, so we don't really have anything else to do there. But I think I might steal the senior spotlight thing, Raylene. We've got a big class of seniors, and that would give us some social media content. Thought about some SAE features too, especially while kids are working. But
Janae, we gave some of our officers that were ready to like keep rolling with stuff to make little Shutterfly scrapbooks for our seniors. So I know some of our kids were tasked with that, and they were really excited to be able to honor our seniors. We have a small group, so it was financially feasible for us. So they're making little digital scrapbooks or memorabilia books, whatever you want to call them, for the seniors to get printed and mailed to them.
that's a cool idea.
My reporter also wanted like some snippets from the seniors and other members about what's been going on in their life while they've been locked up at home, to make a special section in the scrapbook to remember this. You know, when we look at the scrapbook in 10 or 15 years, like, well, why do you guys not have all this stuff in your book?
Mm-hmm.
Well, because we're all locked at home.
Mm. Yeah, our officers talked about, Carol, to your note, a travel notebook. So I guess when they were in elementary school, someone started with the notebook and they like wrote a story, and then they mailed it to the next kid on the class list, and then they talked about whatever they were doing that week, and they mailed it to the next person, you know, and by the end you have this whole book full of stories, which could be really cool to put in the scrapbook. but then we were concerned about people giving out their address, you know, like, are they going to be uncomfortable if someone else says their address, whatever. So that idea has not come to life yet, but I think it's a great idea. It's just kind of fun for them to get to watch each other. And then who pays for the postage, you know, all those things. But that's another idea to add to the list.
Does anyone have any thoughts or conversation with their teams on one of the things that our seniors have brought up is just giving them closure in June, like when they're supposed to graduate at that time. Most of us probably had our officer teams picked and transitions and banquets are over. Our seniors brought the point up of they would like to have some closure in June so they don't feel like they're lingering as officers through the summer, and there may or may not be this banquet picnic in August. Has anyone else come across those concerns or have thoughts on some of those comments?
I think we all have. It's just, do we have the answers? No.
So this isn't a good thought, but it's a thought. If things are really that bad that you really can't be getting people together yet by June, would it be entirely dumb and for lack of any other option to do a virtual passing of the gavel ceremony on Zoom or something like that?
Yeah, it's definitely an option.
Katie, I did see, well, this kind of goes along to senior spotlights, I guess. Penn Manor High School has an Instagram account for the class of 2020, and they feature like a kid a day and their decision that they've made for after high school. So it'll be like, John Doe accepted to so-and-so, and like a picture. So thought about that as another way for our seniors. Someone that I was a teacher turned the key with, she just posted a video of their FFA chapter. Her and her, like, she had 2 senior officers. They drove around because they can drive, so they followed her around to each kid's house, and their new officer team stood in their yard with a megaphone and held a big poster that said Sentinel, and they like shouted, you know, hey Julie, come out of your house, congratulations. They played the state officer song, whatever. So then they posted that online for everyone else to watch, obviously after they made the videos, and she was real tech savvy and had like 2 camera shots, whole 9 yards, whatever.
Wow.
So I thought that was not actually a terrible way of announcing your officer team when you have nothing else, because it still made it kind of exciting. You know, someone's coming out of your house, but you have to make sure they're there. So it takes a little background work. And it was a nice way to give the seniors like something to do as a part of that. And practicing social distancing and, you know, all those things. So
that's cool.
I don't know.
Is Mr. Brammer on?
Fortunately, no.
No. I was wondering like what his thoughts were for selecting officers for this next year. If we can't, you know, because we never had a chance to even select. We didn't have our interviews or anything for selection of our officers. So we don't even have them picked yet. So I was just wondering how the state was going to handle it if they can't, you know.
They're, I mean, I know they're running the SOX sessions digitally and still in conjunction with the regional PAAE meetings. Does anybody have any students going through those virtual SOX sessions right now? What are those looking like?
I did not hear much other than they were bummed they couldn't be in person. So it was on Zoom. It was last night that she was in the Eastern Region one, but the state officer application is online and due soon. We conveniently, to our luck, elect and announce at our banquet. So all that was done before we left. I know, Katie, I think we had talked about this before. You're interviewing on Zoom probably?
Yeah, so we've come up with a plan. We have not actually implemented it yet, but we have about 15 people that are applying for 9 positions. We have our highest ranking senior officer paired with an industry professional, and then we'll have a Grassland FFA alumni paired with somebody else to yet be determined. And what we're going to do is it worked out that we're going to track our 2 two officer interviews. One's going to be an upperclassman track, so anyone running for president, vice president, or are an upperclassman or have previously been an officer. And then we have a lot of freshmen and or new applicants, and we're going to put them through, they're going to sign up ahead of time for a meeting slot, and they're going to go through the Zoom interview. We'll record them. We're going to share them all in a folder. That'll be on a Monday night, and then Tuesday night, the judges are going to get together, and along with all their applications, they each have a Google folder plus their Zoom interview that was recorded, plus they did a pre-interview video they recorded of themselves answering basic questions like the elevator speech type stuff. All that will be in there, and then those 4 judges will meet on a Tuesday, and then we're going to have a pre-recorded video emailed out on Wednesday stating our new officer team. Prior to that, we are emailing all parents and guardians though to let them know what time that's happening, and we'll include them on that email because we know the emotions that go with officer elections. So we do have that in place as well to make sure we email them so they know that that's being sent out, as well as including them on that email. So that is our current plan. We're going to solidify that with our officers tonight, and then we're probably going to get rolling with that beginning of May. So something along those lines.
Had you
Okay.
already collected your nominations and all that stuff before school was out?
No, we actually do hard copies. They were due April 3rd. So as soon as school let out, I just pretty much took our hard copy and made it a Google form and just emailed it out to the kids and said, you have 3 options: scan in the paper copy filled out, fill out the Google form, or drop it off in the greenhouse and I'll pick it up. So those were kind of the 3 options the kids had. And then everything was due by April 3rd. And then I scanned in any documents I needed to.
Well, that was all great discussion. Sounds like we're all experiencing the same sorts of FFA challenges and questions and uncertainties. But that's why I foresee perhaps maybe Mr. Brammer being able to maybe facilitate a session, maybe along with the state officer team in the near future to sort of provide a little bit of advisement and guidance as to what they're doing, what they've seen other states doing, what the recommendations are from maybe nationals, as far as how to continue your officer election membership election cycle going, despite the added distance learning right now. But all great suggestions that were shared. As I said, and I don't want to, I'm fine, but I don't want to hold anybody else up that has other obligations, because I know you all do. I'm not going to share the 2 things that I brought to this session. They can easily be carried over to next week. So I'm not going to share what I brought. However, we do have Tiffany Morey, our program's PhD student, who I have made mention, has been pulling together all of the different resources that have been flying around here through the interweb from different states and different state supervisors, et cetera. So since Tiffany's on here, I've asked her if she could just very quickly, and again, we are very hopeful that we are going to be able to release this to you. If not today, I would say try to look forward in next Tuesday's blast newsletter. But Tiffany's just going to give you a real quick snapshot of what she's been working very hard and diligently at pulling together, and let you know how she's organized it and how you can best utilize it. So Tiffany, you can take a minute or 2 and share everybody what you've been up to.
Absolutely. Are you guys able to see my screen? Does it look like my database at the moment?
Yes.
Awesome.
You're good.
So what we've been working on here at the center for the past couple weeks, once we got the announcement that it looked like we were going to be going to virtual instruction, was how do we take a traditionally hands-on subject like ag and all of a sudden now we teach it online. And so I've worked to create a database for you guys that is organized by the major career clusters. And then under each, I kind of just use CASE and some of the standards to sort of organize them by topical area. And anything that has been coming across our desk in listservs, from teachers, whatever. We have been putting it in here. So you'll see that we've got ag business, animal science, biotech, environmental science, food science, natural resources. Sorry, I know it's like nauseating watching me scroll across. Plant science, ag mechanics. We've got basics for FFA and SAE. We've got just some miscellaneous ag. So if you teach like an intro to ag science or something that just maybe doesn't necessarily fit right into one of the areas. And then we also have some resources for virtual learning as well. So just some general tips, some platforms, and some things that you can use. So right now, we haven't pushed this out, but if you are looking for a specific resource, email one of us. We'd be happy to send you. So if you say, hi, hey, Tiffany, or hey, John, I need something on shop safety, we can then send you all the resources that we have. On the flip side, if you come across anything that you feel would be great to share, please send it to me or one of the members of the team, and we will get it put in the database. This includes files. So if you send me your files, I can put them in Google Drive and then put a shareable link. So Doug Brown sent us everything in the world on environmental science yesterday, and I've been able to upload that. We've got some Google Drive repositories from different states, from the University of Minnesota. So anything you have that you want to share, just send it to me, send it to one of the members of the team, and we will get it in the database. What questions can I answer about it? You know, what can I be doing to help you?
This looks like a lot of great work. Thanks.
Oh, no problem. Hey, it's all of a sudden everybody teaches online, us included, and the student teachers. So we're all in this, whatever we can do to continue to provide the high quality ag education to our students that they're used to, you know, we're all kind of sharing that same mission. But please, anything you have that you want shared, send it to me, send it to one of the team members, and we'll get it there so that everyone can access it.
We need to be careful that we actually, that it's our work if we're submitting it to you, or I know there's a lot of information out there on, you know, our rights and responsibilities of sharing other people's work.
If it's other people's work, I would just ask that you please cite who you got it from and check with them that you have permission to share it. Anything that belongs to you as a document, that's fine. I will set the sharing settings on it so that people can only view, they're not able to edit anything that you have created. And
Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah, and if you want and it's yours, just put like a header on it that contains your school name and your name if you're worried about people editing it. So then you sort of have like a watermark on it.
I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about, because I don't have problems sharing my stuff. It's just, I've been in this long enough, and Marty, are you there? Are you still there, Marty?
I'm still here.
We've accumulated so much stuff, you know, over the past 25, 30 years that, you know, I forget who I got it from.
Valid.
Well, if there's any way you can put it on there, just let us know and we'll credit it. Otherwise, that's kind of an area I'm not as familiar with. John, you think that that would be more of a Dr. Ewing question? He can answer that.
Dr. Ewing, Dr. Foster is actually also
Yeah.
quite
So,
versed in copywriting policy, and
yeah.
both from, you know, the legal and Penn State policy standpoint.
So obviously, you know, we can't go sharing things like case because that is copyrighted and unless you've gone through the training. But if it's a publicly available resource on the web, then it's fine. So like MyCart, they've opened up subscription. Some of the other ones, ICEV, as long as they've opened up subscription and they made it publicly available on the web, you're fine with stuff like that. Because a lot of the companies have gotten rid of their subscriptions temporarily, like any fees, because they understand that we're all kind of in this boat together and they want to make sure that we can access the resources that we need to teach our students.
And I can also attest, not without 100% certainty, of course, but I would say 90% at least of the stuff that Tiffany's pulled together into that repository It's this state supervisor of ag education for Minnesota. It's New York State supervisor of education. It's North Carolina. Sharing out across national listservs. And if you trace back through the original string, it says share as you please, share as you wish. So in most cases, the original sources of these, and again, a lot of this is just teacher files that they've wanted to dump into like a community of practice. In many regards, it's nothing terribly unique or special, but the original creator of the content just said, here, share as you see fit, and right there's permission. Once it's out there shared, it's shared. So okay, thank you very much, Tiffany.
You're welcome. I'm gonna log off. Have a great weekend, everybody. I'll see you next week. Send me anything you'd like me to share.
Thanks again. You have a great weekend yourself.
Bye.
2 real quick announcements before we all get into a much needed weekend break here. Number 1 is I have, at the request of an ag teacher, I have put next week's, if you've subscribed to our center statewide Google Calendar, I have put the sessions for this PA 360 and 60 series into that Google Calendar with the morning and afternoon link on each respective session. We were asked to do that just to help this one particular teacher keep it straight. So if you are if you have requested to be added to that Google Calendar, you should see the sessions for next week's discussions pop up in there. So that's announcement number 1. Announcement number 2 is I made mention of this yesterday afternoon. I'm not sure if any of you were on this morning, if Beth Matthew mentioned to the group, but it's pretty official. Next Friday, I'm going to be doing both sessions, and I'm going to be doing a crash course on Google SketchUp, or SketchUp by Trimble, whatever it's now owned by, called by, whatever. And so between now and then, I'm working on coming up with some good activities by content. So a good ag mechanics activity that you can just toss out to your students with directions on how to set up their Google SketchUp account, and a real good crash course basic activity that forces them to practice utilizing it a little bit. We'll do one of those for ag mechanics, one of those for landscape. I'll try to figure something out for maybe wildlife, maybe a bird feeder design or something like that they have to draw. So if you're at all interested in potentially incorporating that, both sessions next Friday are going to be that, and there will be more information about that coming out at the very least in the newsletter on Tuesday. We might even be pushing that out through email. So just to get it on your calendar. And Kelly, you tell me, and you provide me with a Gmail account or a Google affiliated email. Like if your school email is Google affiliated, all you got to do is tell me that. And I add you to that calendar. Kelly asked how they get added to the center Google Calendar. You just let me know and tell me what address, email address to use, and I put you in there.
Are you anticipating both sessions are going to be the same?
Yep, we'll do. I'm going to go and do just a quick overview of the basic features of Google SketchUp, and then kind of go through the activities that I come up per content area for each.
That sounds great, John. I will definitely be there next Friday. I do have to hop off now, but have a good weekend, everyone.
Okay. Yep, we are way over. Thank you so much for coming and sticking with us. Great discussion. Have a much deserved and fantastic weekend.
Thank you, everyone.